if we've got a good beneficial government, then fine. But if you've got a government that just wants to control people,
That's gonna cause a revolution.
Sort of like going down to like communists.
we don't like what you're doing, and therefore only people who do this can access.
Hi, my name is Jenia, and this is Authenticity, where we try to find out the truth about what people think about important matters that may really change their lives. Today, we're talking about cash, or the lack of it. If you haven't noticed, so many places now are cashless, including bars, restaurants, theatres. Many cash points don't work. What do people think about that? Are they happy? Do they want it to be a cashless world? Do they think card is better? Let's go out and find out. First person I asked who about the cash and what they thought about it, guess where they worked? Oh my goodness, it was the Bank of England. And when I asked them to talk, surprise, surprise, they could not give an answer. They said they're not allowed to talk. Okay, then we asked a few more people and they had the same answer. So anyway, we're going to go and find some more people and hopefully they can give us their views. Whether he thinks cash is important, whether we should go cashless, what's your views?
Well, the cash is quite important.
First of all, how often do you use cash?
Very often.
How often do you use cash?
I use cash every day.
How often do you use cash?
Every day. Every day.
As much as I can. I mean, I use cards, but I use cash as much as I can.
What do you think about restaurants and bars going cashless? What's your views on that?
Well, it is better, to go, and about cashless, because every time you pay, they give you a lot of money and you lose everything.
Do you prefer cards or cash?
I prefer cash, just because I know how much I have of it. With my card, I have to keep checking if I have it in right amounts.
Many venues, restaurants, bars, theatres that are now just using card. What's your opinion on that?
I think it's a terrible thing. I think if you're offering a choice, pay by cash, pay by card, so it's convenient and anybody can do what they want, then that's fine. But if I'm going to a pub today that is completely cashless, they only take card. And I think, well, this is not a good idea, because ultimately it's sold on the back of people being, it's convenient to people, it's really easy. People, all you have to do is flash your card or your phone or your watch or something else, really, really easy. But it's not about easiness, it's about control. And it's about taking money out of the system. Because if I pay you £100 in cash, you have £100. If I pay, and you're a business, right? If I pay you £100 on my card, you receive £98.50. That £1.50 goes to financial institutions. Now you've got £98.50. You pay the £98.50 and now it's down to £96. The money has been taken out of the system. And the other thing is that ultimately, if it's all cashless and digital, then if we've got a good beneficial government, then fine. But if you've got a government that just wants to control people, all they have to do is switch off your access to cash. We don't like what you're doing, and therefore only people who do this can access that. In 2 years' time, we're bringing in Bitcoin. I don't know if you've heard about Bitcoin, but kind of government-backed digital currency. And they say, well, this is going to run alongside cash for many years. But actually, it's there to ultimately replace cash. And is it a good idea? I don't think it is.
Did you know that there was a law in Canada that where the people were protesting against the vaccine and then their bank accounts were frozen? Did you hear that? All right, where did you hear that from?
Only you see it on the news.
Which news? Was it
When I get my local BBC.
Oh, but you heard it on the BBC. Oh, I'm surprised the BBC reported that. All right, okay. What was your views on that?
Bad.
Frightening, yeah, because depending on how you behave, your card can be blocked or not.
Sort of like going down to like communists.
Yeah.
State run. I don't like that.
Do you think it would be good if the world became cashless?
No, because if the world becomes cashless, that means that the banks and the governments have all control over someone's money. Whilst, say, if I gave you £20 and you gave your friends £20, how much does your friend have? £20. Whilst if you pay by contactless or direct debit, portion goes to the bank, so it doesn't retain its exact value.
Did you hear about what happened in Canada with the truckers having their bank accounts frozen?
I did. Well, there's another example. It also happened with the Ukraine thing as well. And you might go, well, okay, I disagree with the truckers and I disagree with Russians going into Ukraine, and go, they're the bad guys, we should stop them. But ultimately, just because they're the bad guys this time, what happens if you fall on the side of being perhaps the bad guy next time and your access to cash is switched off? I think it's a terrible thing.
So the Russians had their bank accounts
Some
closed.
Russian organisations had access to PayPal and other things taken because it's digital, and all we have to do is say, well, don't have any access to it.
Yeah.
And I think it's hugely undemocratic and totalitarian.
How do we change it?
Well, we changed it. There have been movements in supermarkets where people would just line up to pay in cash to an actual cashier. So there's two things going on. One is removing cash, and the other thing is removing humans from the employment system by replacing them with machines. And if you line up and only pay cash, then ultimately that's sending a message to people. But I get it. It's convenient. I can flash my card and it's done. I don't have to take out my money. And I totally understand that it costs money for the Royal Mint to make cash. But it's still a good thing to have cash. And I think it's still a bad thing to remove cash completely from society. And only can do something about it if people actually continue to pay it.
Yeah, you know, I remember we were talking about what happened in Canada with the protesters who weren't allowed to have access to their bank accounts for 3 weeks. Did you know about that?
I heard it from another source, so I didn't look into it, but not too much. But how like the government can access all their bank accounts and freeze it, all because they didn't want to have the vaccine. It's awful. Which is why if you don't have a cashless system, you still be able to have a cash to live on.
Yeah. Can I ask your opinion? Did you know that in Canada, when the people were protesting against the vaccine, their bank accounts were stopped and frozen, and they weren't allowed to take cash for 3 weeks? Did you know that?
Didn't know that, but if they to do that in the old world, that gonna cause a revolution.
Happen here.
But it could, if it happen, it could cause a revolution. Cause as I said, people gonna get hungry. And they cannot, some people doesn't have a bank account. They rely on cash. And many people rely on cash same way. So without the cash, you're going to have a lot of people going around stealing stuff. And we don't want that. They're going to bring down our society down. If people start to going around stealing because they cannot spend cash.
Who decides about the cashless idea being good?
Who is ultimately in control?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know who's in control. Is it the government is in control? Is it the financial institutions?
The Bank of England?
National? Is it really the Bank of England? Is it some shadowy government puppets that are in a back room somewhere pulling all the strings? I don't know. But ultimately, putting control in the hands of a few is the opposite of what democracy is supposed to.
Yeah, exactly. How do we change it?
I think we change it by people waking up and deciding to do something about it before it's too late.
Convincing argument. And I mean, I also know from my parents who were older, they did everything in cash. They were not comfortable using cards. So I think you're alienating some people too who don't have access to credit cards, for sure. You're kind of finding a certain segment of society. You're also encouraging credit, which, you know, it was the one thing that I really tried to teach my kids is to not use those credit cards.
And in your life, do you use more cash or do you use card more?
More cards, but I use cash as well.
So you definitely prefer cash, right?
Yeah.
Do you prefer card or cash?
Both of them, but we need the cash.
You definitely are for cash anyway.
Well, I'm for choice.
For choice, yeah.
I'm not for removing one choice completely from the whole of society.
Do you think about the media, the mainstream media? What's your views on that?
When you work out that the news does not exist to tell you what's going on, the news exists to tell you who to hate this week, what to do this week, where to be afraid, why to be afraid, and hand over your power left, right, and centre. That's why the news exists.
Yeah.
If you've seen that little snippet in American news where every single newsreader from around the country on small stations all saying exactly the same thing at the same time because they're handed what to say. Because there are only really 5 companies that own all of the media, whether it be newspaper or magazines or radio stations or television stations. It's controlled in the hands of the elite, and so the mainstream news needs to be dead in the water. People need to wake up to the fact that news doesn't exist to tell you what's happening.
So we had some really interesting discussions with people about what they feel about cash and whether they think it's important. I also spoke to people who were a bit shy to come on camera, but they all had the similar view that they felt that cash is so important to keep in terms of your money not being monitored as much and just generally the freedom that people have with cash. So that was the view of the people. And now I'm interested in your views. What's your views about it? Should we be cashless or should we keep cash still? What do you think?
I think we need to have some people who are able to do the things that are needed to be done. And we've always traditionally handed that over to governments, and we make a mockery of every 5 years, putting a cross in the box as if that changed anything. You can vote, you can go right, you can go left, you're still a rat trapped in a maze. Who are the mazes? Stuff, or we need to find out.